וידבר אדוני על משה לאמור, נשא את ראש בני גרשון גם הם לבית אבותם למשפחותם. Naso means take. Adonai said to Moshe, take a census of the descendants of Gershon, also by clans and families.
The portion Naso begins with the word take. While it is talking about a census, it is more about taking stock of the situation that the children of Israel were in. In our lives, we sometimes take stock of our needs and living situation, but one can only imagine what it was like to do that with 1,000,000 people living in the wilderness. Have you ever been between jobs or between paychecks when the budget gets tight? Do you start looking at stored food that has not been eaten? Usually because while it stores well, it is not the favorite of the family. I'm sure that we all have had times when we do not eat the way we prefer. The people following Moses certainly brought supplies, but I do not think they were prepared to live in the wilderness for 40 years. Those assigned to take stock knew that it was going to be difficult. Each time the people stopped, they had to set up a city in the wilderness with a temple, assigned areas outside for relieving themselves, and probably even centers for trade. The name Numbers applies to the accounting for all these things, but the scroll accounts for more than just this. When election time comes around, there is lots of discussion about what taxes should be spent on. There is an accounting of every choice that is made by government officials, and when they do not make popular choices, today they are removed from office by an election of the public. According to Wikipedia, San Antonio has 1,451,853 people living there. Imagine if the city of San Antonio had to wander around in South Texas through an area about the size of the Mojave Desert in California. How would it survive? Water would be at a premium. Now imagine packing everything up weekly so that the temple could be set up and worship could be performed. Now imagine what it would be like to be led around by Almighty God. There was an entire industry about moving, accounting, and governing. There was no term limit for Moses, and he lost his job and his life after 40 years of the roughest job anyone ever had. Maybe it was like this. Needs and consideration. From the Garrison Keillor website, it says this: Moses came down from the mount with the tablets in his hand, and he told the Israelites, "Okay, I managed to talk him down to 10, but I'm afraid adultery is still in there." No offense to Moses intended, and thank you to the Garrison Keillor website. But in a way, there is something about this joke. We are always negotiating for what we want. We sometimes forget to worry about what others need. In the wilderness, the people of Moses encountered the need for an industry of needs. And we can learn today what to do from this Parsha and the entire book of Bamidbar, also known as Numbers. From this we learn Pekuach Nefesh. According to Jason Aronson as printed on my Jewish Learning website, the preservation of human life takes precedence over all other commandments in Judaism. The Talmud emphasizes this principle by citing the verse from Leviticus 18:5. You shall therefore keep my statutes, which if a man do, he shall live by them. The rabbis add that he shall live by them and not that he shall die by them. Babylonian Talmud, Yomud 85b. This means that you do not stand by and not help someone whose life is being jeopardized. This principle is applied in helping all who are in need of food, shelter, or other care. This principle is illustrated in the parable of the Good Samaritan in Luke 10:33-35. I'm reading from the Complete Jewish Bible. Yeshua said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him naked and beat him up, then went off, leaving him half dead. By coincidence, a Cohen was going down on that road, but when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. Likewise, a Levi who reached the place and saw him also passed by on the other side. But a man from Shomron, a Samaritan, who was traveling, came upon him, and when he saw him, he was moved with compassion. So he went up to him, put oil and wine on his wounds, and bandaged them. Then he set him on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 days' wages, gave them to the innkeeper, and said, look after him, and if you spend more than this, I'll pay you when I return. Yeshua was contrasting people who would use Torah and oral tradition as an excuse not to assist, while a Samaritan, Shomron, where there was worship of multiple false gods and sacrificing on the hilltops, was shown to have compassion. His audience was familiar with tradition and maybe understood the tradition of Pekuach Nefesh. Today some might read this as criticism of all tradition, but remember this audience was all or at least mostly Jewish. They were all about tradition. They knew that this Cohen, Levi who came by were not doing what they were supposed to do in this story. The story presents in such a way that it was not necessary to say what one must or should do, but the parable makes it clear. I cannot think but that this concept came from not only Leviticus, but from learning in the wilderness. Conclusions. Charity today. Christian and Jewish people today mostly understand the need to help others. Christian organizations like the Salvation Army and Jewish organizations like Jewish Family Services provide assistance to many. How many listening to this right now do volunteer work? And how many contribute to others who do? So Pekuach Nefesh is not just a Jewish tradition, it just is called differently in Christian communities. Do you help those around you in need? Is this a command from ADONAI that we are all obligated to? The message is clear in the Tanakh, the Old Testament, and the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament. Does your faith in ADONAI show by your actions? I am sure that you can be forgiven, but is it not better to be as obedient as you can? Think about this as you go about your good week, and have a Shabbat Shalom.